On today's episode of Living Your Best Life, I have my good friend Jim West. He's the president of Total Life Counseling, and he's going to be speaking about some major issues that are affecting many of us. Vaping and screen time. You don't want to miss this. I want to introduce you to some of my friends who are going to share some relevant issues that we all go through. See, when you hold it inside, it's like a volcano, and sooner or later it erupts. I want you to know that there is hope, and if you're going through a hard time, you're not alone. The more you see your dreams and goals, the more likely you are to take action towards them and be accountable. Jim, in March we had our last event. And when I say last event, it's when the pandemic hit everybody. But it was crazy because we had this big community night in Georgia, and it was packed. And then the next day we started getting phone calls, cancellations. We're doing about 250 events a year,
right?
And they're canceling left and right, and it was just horrible. But Jim, at the end of the week, I always get my cell phone rings up and it shows me how long I've been on the phone for that week.
Sure.
I gotta tell you, man, I was shocked being as an adult, being responsible. I'm like, I cannot believe I was on for this many hours each day. I know this is a big thing because I get letters from it all the time on how kids are just addicted to the video games and the cell phones and the social media. And I want to discuss that with you too, because that's something that I deal with a lot, but not even realizing how much I use my cell phone, and I'm so aware of it now. But obviously we have to use it for work and things like that, and we use it a lot to counsel students and so on. But the addiction part of it, though, and especially with screen time and video games, it causes disruption in life.
Sure.
And I want you to share a little bit about what you're experiencing, or some of the counseling that you're doing with kids and families about this.
It's interesting. I think one of the first video games that was highly addictive was in 2004. It was World of Warcraft. And even grown men were getting addicted to it. And I actually, one of my family members was in his late 50s and playing 36 hours straight and bragging about it. And he said he did it 2 weekends in a row. And this is a person who bowls like 300 games every now and then, who fishes, who is golfing almost every weekend. I mean, and he's inside, and he's huddled around his computer. And and his wife said, it's either me or the computer. I mean, that was back in the mid 2008 or 9, I think, when that happened to him. But that game came out in 2004, and ever since then, the video game companies were trying to figure out, okay, what did they do? How did they do it? Now, how can we make ours the same way? So now you have Fortnite, which is highly addictive. And actually, I was doing an interview on, I think it was ABC or CBS, the local station, and the anchor did a Facebook Live video ahead of time and goes, hey, we're going to have Jim West on talking about video game addiction. He said, my brother, by the way, in San Francisco, hooks up an EEG to the kids, and while they're playing video games and they're testing them, and they want to see which games are going to light up their frontal lobe and what parts of the game are not. And whatever part does not just overly excite them and release dopamine, they'll just take that part of the game out because they just want it to just light you up. So, and of course, video games themselves are not bad, but we have to tell parents, you gotta limit it, just like you do dessert, just like you do their meals and how much they eat, or snacks, or soda. You have to limit this in a similar fashion. Right.
I gotta admit, I've got an addictive personality.
Okay.
I will not play a video game.
Okay.
I mean, I know that it's because, I'm on the computer so much, corresponding with students.
Sure.
And I know if I started playing a video game, it would take me out of something I love. I mean, it would literally take me out of something that is my passion.
Right.
Because all of a sudden this takes over.
Yep.
And you go, I just want to play another hour and 2 hours and 5 hours. And all of a sudden you realize, night becomes day.
Sure.
And these kids are going to school with no sleep.
Right.
I mean, the letters I get from parents, it just breaks your heart because they're like, what can I do to get my kid off these video games? And so what would you tell a parent if they came to you and said, how do I get my kid to stop playing video games?
Well, that's the thing is that in order for them to connect and relate to their peers, they if they just take them off the video games, then that's one thing they don't have in common. So I know there's some kids that are behind socially. People with ADHD get addicted to things easier. They're also 60% of them are behind socially. Kids with autism are most all of them behind socially, and they are highly addicted. Whatever they love it a lot, and that's what makes people get addicted to things really easily. One of the things that does that. So we're not saying to not play it. We're talking about putting some limits in place. And so the American Academy of Pediatrics basically issued some guidelines and said they need to socialize, for maybe 1 or 2 hours, to be able to play for 30 minutes to an hour. If they're younger, if they're 11 and up, they can have up to 2 hours, but make them socialize. Let them get outside, for maybe 2 or 3 hours so that they are socializing, getting vitamin D, getting some exercise. Because if you're just sitting there and you're sedentary, that causes you to want to eat more. It causes you to get depressed easier. It can cause anxiety. We have kids getting very angry because they use up their dopamine all in the games. The games just sucks it all out, and it rewires the reward circuitry in our brain.
Wow.
And
the screen time, and kids are so concerned about what kids are saying about them on social media, and it's like they just want to see, and it becomes like this cell phone becomes just attached to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even for everyone that carries around a cell phone, you always have your cell phone with you.
Sure.
But when these cell phones go into the room and all night they're in their bed with their cell phone and looking at it all night, it's on all night.
Yeah. Or watching Netflix,
Exactly.
The guy that owns Netflix says, I'm not competing with Amazon or the TV networks. He says, I'm competing for your sleep.
Wow.
So he wants you to binge watch and watch all through the night. Okay.
So a student that is constantly, on social media.
Sure.
What do you tell a parent? Is it the same thing? There's rewards and so on with that?
It's similar to, it does release the reward circuitry in the brain. There are psychologists that are hired to work for these companies to figure out, the same people that figured out how to make slot machines addictive. They're using that same psychology. So when you're swiping your phone, it's like a slot machine, like the numbers and the fruit, like spinning like this in front of your eyes. It's that same thing. And then of course the tactile thing. My daughter at 2 years old was the first time she touched an iPhone, and it was when I was getting a bid to get some work done at my house. And the lady gave her phone and said, he put puppies, just Googled puppies. And my daughter was able to go like this and see a puppy and release dopamine.
Wow.
Just, ooh. And then another one, oh. And she had never felt that much dopamine. Oh, right? And she did it for 5 minutes. And then when she took the phone, what do you think my daughter did?
Started crying.
She screamed, just, ah! Right? So that is why Steve Jobs did not give his kids an iPad. They didn't get an iPad.
Right.
Bill Gates did not give his kids a smartphone, until they were 14 or 15. Okay? A lot of these executives have classical schools for their kids where they don't have computers. The daycare at Google for up to 4 years old does not have electronics in their daycare.
When you tell a parent, how old should a child be before you give them a phone?
Well, that's kind of where each kid might be different. But it's around that high school age, like when they're 14 and they're going to be more independent, that would be one of the better times to do that. But then you need to have the login to all. One of my neighbors actually writes the social media contracts and rules for a lot of the schools in the area, and she basically says, don't give your kids Snapchat unless they're very, very mature and they can really handle that. But then the kids say, that's how my friends communicate with each other. Right? Because they could be private and they can make the pictures disappear and the messages disappear. And then there's one of the Snapchat, what do they call it? The Snapchat, the string, I lost it. But they have it where you Snapchat your friends like every day and see how many days in a row you do that. And the longer that is, the more you like them as a friend, the more committed you are to that friendship. So they have all these different things like that to make it addictive. They have the like button. In fact, Justin Rosenstein, who made the like button for Facebook, he is a consultant for Google and Twitter. He actually had parental controls put on his phone by his assistant, and he hacked it. So he went on 60 Minutes and said, I now have a flip phone. I have a dumb phone. Because the technology he made addictive, him and other technology people got addicted to the same technology they made addictive. They're having to disconnect themselves to meet their deadlines. and to fulfill contracts for all these technology companies.
You know, we had a community night, and a parent, there was question and answer at the end of the community night, and a parent said to me that I don't see nothing wrong with giving my child the cell phone because we're best friends. And I said, well, how old is your daughter? And she said, she's 8 years old. And I was blown away. Now, I think about this because I don't care how close you and your daughter believe you are.
Right.
Peer pressure is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the detrimental things that kids are seeing on their phones, whether it's violence or pornography or whatever.
8 years old is when they see porn.
Yes.
8 years old.
A huge effect on kids' lives, and I'm seeing it more and more. And so when I don't understand why people feel like the need to give their kids a cell phone. I know there's a lot of peer pressure involved because all their friends have it at school.
Yeah. But
when you see most of the middle school kids that I go to the schools that I go to, middle school, high school, they all have cell phones.
Right. Well, and I don't know that they shouldn't have a cell phone. It just shouldn't be a smartphone unless you got a lot of really good parental controls on there, because it is a highly addictive thing. I mean, the phone itself has more power than the computer, the supercomputer they use to get a man on the moon.
Right.
Okay. There's everything is here. You have access to pornography. You have access to drug paraphernalia, or even ordering drugs online. So you really need to have good filters, and so we recommend like parental controls. Like there's Custodio, there's Net Nanny 10, which is called WeZift. There's also stuff for bullying. There's an app called Bark, where it barks at the parents whenever it sees any cyberbullying or sexting or anything like that happening on up to around 24 social media platforms. Like it can monitor.
Now, kids tell me they can hack these. Now, what's your take on that?
They can, but then you have a discussion. You can see their activity level go down on their phones to nothing, and they didn't just I'm just taking a fast or getting off my phone for a day or two. I need a break. They're not doing that, right? And I do have college students who get off of social media because they're just getting so sick of it. But for the most part, they're on, and that's how they feel connected. But they're actually more depressed. We have, in the last 10 years, 78% increase in suicide from social media. That's really what's happened in the last 10 years because of the cyberbullying. And it's not just the cyberbullying. What if a girl posts a picture and nobody likes it because it's not, and then she looks at other girls' pictures that are more revealing, and they are getting a lot of likes, right? And so now this girl has to decide, do I want to be more revealing in my pictures, and then my parents yell at me for that, or get in a fight about that, and then or do I just stick to my guns and just kind of look, I'm not going to do that. Of course, then they're going to be, they won't get attention from the guys. They're going to think I'm not going to have a boyfriend. All these different things, all because of how the perception is online.
Jim's got a great video. We're going to give his information here. It's Addictions on the New Millennium, and he talks a lot about this. And I want you to, parents, especially parents, check this out. It's absolutely amazing. Jim, I've been watching a lot of your videos, and man, I've learned so much from you, and I really appreciate it because we work in the same circles many times.
Sure, yes.
And if a parent or student can get a hold, how can they get a hold of you? What's the information you can give out?
Well, our website is totallifecounseling.com. We're on Facebook at Total Life. We're also on Instagram, Total Life Counseling. We are on YouTube, Total Life Media. So we have all kinds of different ways people can reach out to us. We do in-person sessions as well as telehealth with Zoom video. So we talk to people all over the world, and we work with kids, we work with teens, we work with parents, do a lot of parent coaching, and then we also, we have the StressLess Series, which is StressLess with ADHD, with defiance, with autism, with addictions in the new millennium, StressLess with bullying. We have a lot of really cool video resources as well that come with workbooks that can help a lot of people where maybe they can implement those tools and maybe not need as much counseling or might not need counseling at all. That would be the goal for them, right? So we have all kinds of great tools, and then our YouTube channel just has a lot of great videos and resources as well. So
man, it was great talking to you.
It was great talking to you.
Check out my buddy Jim West. He is changing and saving lives.
Yeah.